Did you think rolling out Microsoft Teams would be easy? I did. I thought if we just set it up, clarity would follow. I've helped a lot of teams implement Microsoft 365, and early on, Teams didn't fix anything. In some cases, it actually made things noisier. That's when I realized the problem wasn't Teams, it was how we introduced it. So if you want Teams without chaos, here are 7 lessons I learned the hard way that will help you avoid the mistakes most teams rollouts make. Just while remember, if you need help implementing anything we talk about in this video, then click one of the links in the description below. Either get on our email list or wait list for the next program, or book a call to see if you're a good fit to work together. Lesson 1. When Teams was launched company-wide for a client, chaos followed. Almost immediately, not because people resisted it, but because we never redesigned how work was structured. Everyone had access and channels, yet notifications exploded, meetings increased, and nothing felt clearer. People started saying, Teams just isn't working for us. So instead of adding more tools or training, we paused and redesigned how meetings ran, how decisions were made, and how updates flowed. And only then did Teams start reducing noise instead of amplifying it. Rolling out Teams without rethinking how work is structured just speeds up chaos. And once you see that, the next mistake becomes obvious. Lesson 2. A lot of teams tell me the same thing. Teams is confusing, no one knows where anything is. In one case, files were everywhere, updates lived in 5 places, and decisions were impossible to track. Instead of blaming Teams, we agreed just a few clear rules about where decisions go, where files live, and where updates should happen. And almost overnight, the confusion disappeared. Not because Teams changed, but because behavior did. Teams doesn't fail because of features, it fails because of missing rules. But here's the problem, even with rules in place, one everyday habit can quietly undo all of it. Lesson 3. Imagine a leadership team speed racing through work, relying on private chats for instant decisions, quick messages, fast replies, everything moving. But the moment someone was off sick or on holiday, everything ground to a halt. Projects stalled, questions resurfaced, progress slowed. Why? Because all the decisions and context were trapped in DMs. So we made one simple change. Important decisions were recorded in shared channels, not buried in private chats, and suddenly handovers worked. People could catch up, and progress no longer depended on who happened to be online. Private chat feels fast, but it destroys shared context. And once decisions are visible, the next problem becomes impossible to ignore: how Teams itself is structured. So lesson 4, imagine your team's setup perfectly mirrors your org chart. Finance, sales, ops, marketing. It looks neat on paper, but then the work starts crossing teams. Projects span departments, files land in odd places, and suddenly everyone's asking, where does this go? I see this all the time. With one client, we stepped back and restructured teams around how work actually flowed across the business, not reporting lines. And almost overnight, people could find things without asking. Most team structures break because they mirror org charts, not work. And here's where most teams try to fix that mistake by throwing training at it. So lesson 5, I've seen companies spend thousands on Teams training. People clicked the right buttons, passed the quizzes, and then went straight back to working the old way they used to do before. With one client, we stopped teaching features altogether and instead focused on how people decide where work goes, how they communicate in the open, and how they close the loops. And adoption improved without another training session. Training people how to click buttons is useless without teaching how to think. And even when people understand the right way to work, adoption still falls if leaders don't model it. Lesson 6. One organization told me, we don't want to force Teams on people. 6 months later, everyone had quietly drifted back to email and private chats. So we flipped the approach and agreed a small set of leadership behaviors that were non-negotiable. Decisions set shared in shared channels, meeting notes visible and work tracked in one place, nothing heavy-handed. And once leaders consistently worked that way themselves, momentum kicked in and everyone followed. Adoption fails when everything feels optional. And all of these mistakes point to one underlying issue. Lesson 7. Ever felt stuck wondering which team's features to roll out next? I hear that a lot. One client asked me exactly that, and it was at that moment I realized they were stuck in the wrong frame of thinking. So instead of talking about features, we stepped back and designed how work, decisions, and ownership needed to flow across the business first, and only then shaped teams to support that. That's when teams stopped being another app people checked occasionally and became the place work naturally happened every day. The biggest mistake is treating teams as a tool, not an operating system. And once you see teams that way, everything we've talked about suddenly clicks. Now, here's the important part. All 7 of these lessons are powerful, but on their own, they won't fix anything. Because if you don't know how to structure Microsoft Teams and SharePoint in the first place, none of the rules, behaviors, or habits we've talked about will actually stick. In the next video, I walk you through the one structural mistake that causes most of the chaos I see in Microsoft 365 and the simple framework I use with clients to fix it fast.